What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today the wait is finally over. The Thunder Boys got a new king on the block, and it is Dungaree. So with the release of Clan Collection Volume 3, we did receive new support for Narukami in the form of a retrained Dungaree. So very excited with the support. I'm a huge fan of this deck. I think this is definitely the mid-range kind of champion that we needed in the clan because, you know, Gauntlet Buster just wasn't really cutting it for quite some time. I think Vanquisher is still like a top-tier deck in the meta, don't get me wrong, but just a different kind of playstyle altogether for my favorite clan is always good. So without further ado, let's hop right into the deck profile. I'll show you guys my list, some different choices I might have made compared to some others, and then I'll show you guys a test hand at the end and kind of explain how it all plays out. So yeah, let's hop into that. Alright, before we begin with the deck profile, I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are interested in purchasing any of these cards you see here today, we do have a TCG Player affiliate link down in the description below. You can shop to that link absolutely no cost to you to help support the channel. Also, if you are enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like on the video. The likes on the videos definitely help me kind of craft out what I'm going to be exploring kind of later on down the road. You know, if one clan gets a lot, I'll definitely like focus more, just a lot of comments in general. I'll obviously focus a little bit more on that clan, so it definitely helps me tailor some of my content and deck profiles. And if you are interested in following us, also we do have a Twitter now, so you can interact with us, see what's up at our locals every single week. If any new events coming on for the New York City like regional kind of area, we definitely will be posting because we have some interesting kind of tournaments I think we're going to try to host in just a little bit. So yeah, follow us on there as well. But truly, without further ado, now let's hop right into the main deck profile. Starting off with the grade 3 boss unit. This guy is the lifeblood of the deck, the absolute, you know, end all be all. This is going to be Sealed Demon Dragon Dungaree. So really awesome card, like I said, and it's skill auto on Vanguard Circle. At the beginning of your battle phase, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you may bind the top card of your deck. So really nice to start satisfying his second condition, auto on Van or Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks, put all the cards in your bind zone into the drop. Perform all of the following according to the number of cards put. 2 or less, this unit gets minus 10k, minus a crit, and minus drive 2 until the end of turn. And it's 4 or more. Your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand and then binds it. 5 or more, choose up to 3 cards from your drop zone, return them to your deck, and shuffle it. So let me just explain why this is good. So it might have been overlooked, and I maybe should have addressed this first off, but this guy actually has triple drive over here. So you get 3 drive checks base. His base power, I'm not sure if you can kind of see it from the light or whatever, but it is 17k. It has a 17k base. Also has a 2. Let's see if I can focus that over there. There's 2 critical. Let me see if I can get that. There we go. 2 crits on this guy base. So this is just such a powerful card overall. That 17k base, not only is it offensive, but defensive as well. All of your shields gain an extra 5k. And when you think about that, like that's absolutely huge. Helps you just bulk out the game, and just the longer this game goes on, the more, like, the higher chance you're going to have of winning because you're recycling with his last 5 or more skill. So many crits back into the deck. It just makes it so powerful. By the end, your opponent really has to calculate for that. And then, boom, if one crit kind of slips through, you know, they make it a 1 to pass, triple drive, hit 1, boom, they just got hit with 3 crits. Like, really, really crazy. And this deck has the steam to kind of go all the way. I think that this deck definitely puts a lot of pressure on throughout the game. Is very defensive and bulky, while at the same time, like, not so much control as it used to be on your opponent's side of the field, but just this kind of like new play style. And again, this is kind of a mid-range deck. You have to take it as such. Don't overcommit at times. At other times too, make sure you're satisfying the right level of commitment with the 4 or more, 5 or more, just to make sure that you're still in the game and healthy, because there is a way you can be burning through your hand a little bit quickly in this deck. So I've kind of made some choices to mitigate a little bit of that, and as such, I'm running the deck the way I am. Moving right along now into our next grade 3, we are going to be looking at this guy over here. This is going to be an oldie but goldie. This is something that I really wanted to use for a long time, but just never found a purpose for it, but I really did see the potential. I'm kind of glad that we are using it now. This is going to be Jin of Thunderous Shock. So very interesting card. This came out, oh man, when did this come out? I think it came out with the original Vanquisher, or maybe the Divine Lightning Radiance. I think it's VBT12. Yeah, I think it's Divine Lightning Radiance, actually. So, auto on Van or Rearguard Circle. When it attacks, CB1, bind another Rearguard, draw a card. This guy gets 10k until the end of turn. So, this can help you if in 2 different ways. First off, the drawing card is always great, no matter what. When it attacks, though, binding another Rearguard can help you satisfy Dungaree's skill if you're not quite at that 4 or 5, whatever you really want to be at. I will say really quickly, though, this is a deck that can go the distance, and when you're doing that, you don't really want to be binding out too much at the same time. Like, everything in this deck does bind and naturally helps out Dungaree. I say really just try to keep this guy at 1 on the field at a time, because you start binding away resources, start eating up your counterblast. If you pop off like 2 of these guys at once, a lot of your cards have effects on the field for later. A lot of these guys do have acts, and also robbing your other cards of some counterblast can kind of suck, even though your Vanguard doesn't use it. So I kind of like this guy at 1 of, and I like to put my power from triggers on him too, because if he, let's just break it down really quick. So, you know, he himself is going to give himself an extra 10k, 22k, put a trigger on there, 32k. Boosted by, let's say, a, you know, the, oh god, I forgot the name of it, but the grade 3 searcher, that's an extra 13k. So, you know, it's a 45k column. Could be pretty big, could be pretty tough, especially when you got like 4 other attacks coming. That can actually be pretty substantial, and I don't think power is necessarily an issue in this deck. So that's something I actually do like about it when compared to Eradicators. You know, the power wasn't really there. The control definitely was, the pressure in a way was, but the power wasn't. So this is a really good midway kind of point between all of those, and I like this guy at 3 of. Again, you really just want to have 1 on the field at a time, and I normally think that's enough. Next up over here, we are running another grade 3, and again, I am running this at a 3 of, not a 4 of. This is another oldie but goldie that we got out of, what was this one? Team Dragon Vanity, I think it was. Was it that one? With, was Vanquisher in that one? I kind of forget, but off the top of my head, this did get reprinted over here, which is really, really nice, because I think this was getting expensive for a little bit, but this is Jaggy Shot Dragoon. So, obviously, we're using this for the, what was it, the first skill over here? Not the second skill. Auto on Van or Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, cost, we bind a card from our hand, choose one of your opponent's front row rearguards and bind it. Then if your opponent has no front row rearguards, we get to draw a card. So card draw is always big. The second skill is really just at the end of battle that attacked, put it into your soul if your Vanguard is Vanquisher, and then we draw a card. So not a big deal overall. We will never be able to use that second skill, but this is good because again, you can go and help your timing for a Dungaree. If your Dungaree swing is not going to be fixed with 5 or 4, whatever you want to be at, this guy can help do that. So pacing, A, it is good. B, it is good because it does draw a card. Power wise, doesn't really do too much for us. I would say again, this is not a card you want to just like super spam, because we're not doing the multi-attack off of the bind from hand, so not really getting that benefit necessarily, but very good card overall. Still can help us with the timing and pace of play, and I think that it definitely is still necessary at a 3 of. I don't like it at 4. I think it's a little bit too much, a little too cloggy, no shield value, doesn't really plus as much as previous. Next up over here, we're going to go into the grade 2. So this is a brand new grade 2, very, very good card, very necessary for the deck. This guy over here is Exorcist Mage Renren, so very interesting card overall. Auto, when this unit is ridden upon, we get to counterblast 1, look at 2 cards from the top of our deck, and then choose 1 from among them, bind it, and then put the rest into our hand. So a little bit of plussing right there, which is really nice, and then on top of that, just being able to sort and kind of like bind off, like that's really good, just kind of accelerating our Dungaree kind of a requisite. So its second skill, also act on Rearguard Circle. This is why this card, well, I feel like they're both equally as good, but act on Rearguard Circle once per turn, counterblast 1, bind a card from the top of your deck, and this unit gets an additional 5k till the end of turn for each grade of the bound card. So if it was a grade 0, you also get to draw a card. So overall, can make this guy an extra 15k at the most, because we're not running any grade 4s in here, which is actually pretty good. A 24k unboosted unit still at least threatens over a force marker. I mean, a force Vanguard getting a defensive trigger. So I kind of like that. Put that on an Excel 2, get that up to 29k. Overall, very decent. You could low roll and just get the 5 off there, but even still, at least threatens a hit. Now, in this deck, you're playing the long game, and pokes mean a lot. Just binding stuff from their hand, poking out, making them guard a little bit. It feels pretty decent overall, so I definitely like this card. I think you definitely need this at a 4 of. I just really do like it, and I'm glad they kind of gave us that support. The support feels very well thought out for this deck, I'll say that. Next up over here, this is actually going to be a promo card. I will tell you what you can replace this with afterwards, but this is going to be Dragon Knight Sharaf, I think that's how to say it, Sharaf, yeah. So this guy's skill, auto on one place on Rearguard Circle or put on Guardian Circle. Soul Blast 1, bind a card from your hand, and your opponent chooses a card from their hand, binds it. You and your opponent both draw a card. I know what you might be thinking, oh, my opponent draws 2, I could just be doing a hand filter for them, but that's okay. A lot of decks I find now just kind of like mill through their deck very quick, especially if you're playing like DI or something. This could be accelerating them to the point that they don't really want to be doing that. You know, they're living on the edge, you know, Cram Blue, milling things out, DI like I mentioned. A lot of decks just kind of mill through their deck, and I'm kind of finding that like Witches too. So overall, I think this card is pretty decent for that, because second skill continues on Rearguard Circle. If any player's card is bound this turn, this guy gets an additional 5k plus a 5k shield, so it can become an additional 10k, which is overall pretty bulky. Like, you can move this from Rearguard Circle, bind a card from your hand, draw a card, filter out, maybe, you know, high roll, get some extra shield that you wouldn't have had otherwise. You know, maybe a PG has saved your life right there. So I think this guy is definitely necessary. I think it's good at a 3 of. Anymore, kind of running through too much soul, I guess, in a way, so I think it's great. If you can't if you don't have access to this card because it is a promo, I would say also the promo that they just reprinted, I'll flash both of them on the screen over here. In the regular unit they reprinted, I think it's like another Dragon Knight when placed, binding on the rear guard, 10k, and the other one that you kind of run in Vanquisher, you can do that too because you draw a card, Soul Blast, bind a card from your hand, so both are viable options if you can't access this card. And then next up over here, we're going to be running, I'm kind of going to show them both at the same time, I think. This is going to be Lightning Cannon Eradicator Gongsun. I don't think it's any surprise. And then we are also going to have his counterpart grade 1 with Oben. So I'll go over one at a time. Over here, this guy over here on the right, Gongsun, continues on Vanguard rearguard circle during your turn. If you have the Oben on the rearguard circle in the same column as this unit, it gets an additional 3k. And then second skill, auto on Van or rearguard circle at the end of battle attacked. While boosted by Oben, you basically get to counterblast 1, bind all the rear guards in that column as this unit, and draw 2 cards. So this is really nice because you're binding your unit, especially if it's on rearguard circle, you're binding your units, but you're also binding your opponents. So a little bit control, like big column control, which is actually kind of what the deck needed. As you can see, a lot of things in this deck just bind from our hand. They don't bind the field the way that you're so used to kind of in Narukami, which is good because a lot of things today retire themselves. A lot of prevalent decks do that. So they don't really have a lot of stuff sitting around, but at the same time, if they do have it, this is a really nice combo. And then if we get to draw 2 cards, so that's huge. Like, you know, you just filtered from your hand basically, and you can get a little bit more shield. And again, we don't mind binding the shield because we can recycle it back. It all just kind of works out. So I think this card is absolutely great. And then Oban is kind of, again, just the counterpart for this guy. If you have a Lightning Eradicator Gongsun in the same thing, gets 3k. Basically makes a 23k column over here when they boost each other. And then when placed, if you have this guy over here, it in the same column, you get to countercharge 1. So this guy's skill should be always kind of almost live. Like I said before too, you can run into some counterblast issues because this uses it. The oh god, what was the name of it? The Ren uses it. The grade 3 uses it. So there's a lot going on with the counterblast, but I think the combo of these two definitely work out pretty nicely overall. And as such, I'm definitely running them at 4 and 4. It feels really good actually. It is a good combo in this deck. Next up over here for grade 1's new support unit. This is actually, again, a really good card. Again, the support for this deck is just so well thought out. Exorcist Mage Mew Mew. But this card, auto when this unit is written upon, look at the top card of your deck, bind it, or put it on the top of your deck. So again, a little bit of like a mill kind of thing going on. Like you can choose to put it on the top if it's a trigger, you want to keep it, or you can just bind it if it's like a unit, you know, high roll, maybe just swing on it again, boom, you know, get that trigger that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So, and again, this really helps to get up to grade 3 where you might not have so much in your hand. So this, along with the grade 2, the extra 2 that you already put into the bind zone from your own side, really helps Dungaree out a whole lot. It's second skill 2, act on rearguard circle once per turn if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2 or greater. Soul Blast 1, bind a card from our hand, and then draw a card. So again, just a filter, and you can later in the game, early in the game, bind out stuff that aren't necessary. Later in the game, bind out those triggers that you know are going back into the deck. Your deck will be so compressed that you just, you know, you have a very high chance of hitting it overall. And you're never really in trouble, I feel like, of decking out. That's another thing to mention. I know a lot of things say bind from the deck, draw, whatever it is. You know, with that filter that you put back into the deck, I feel like you're never close to decking out. So I have not decked out once with this deck. That card is really good. And then lastly, for the regular units, I am running 4 of Mighty Bolt Dragoons. This is the top 5 searcher for a grade 3. A lot of important grade 3s in this deck, and as such, I think we definitely need to be maxing out on this. Even if there weren't, you know, I feel like any kind of V deck these days just runs 4 of these searchers. But when placed on Van and Rear, you basically look at the top 5, add a grade 3 to your hand. If you added a card, you discard a card from hand. If you're going second, obviously discard the Quick Shield or whatever. Its second skill continues on rearguard circle. During your turn, if any player's card was bound this turn, this guy gets 5k. So again, that includes your own as well. So very nice card overall. And then lastly too, we are looking to play a starter. You can run any starter. I just had this one laying around, so I used that. Kind of like another one, but maybe I'll swap that out eventually. And then into the trigger lineup. Let's pan out for that. Getting right into the triggers then. This is a very typical lineup for me, at least for Narukami. I'm definitely confident in this. I feel like this is the best to get like a mid-range kind of survival game kind of going. But I'm going with 6 of our draws, 4 of them being the crit sentinel, or the Perfect Guard Sentinels. Let me see if I can get that out of the glare over there. Sorry about that. 6 crits as well. Let's see, is that glaring? No. And then 4 of the Heal Guardians. I just think that early pressure really isn't too easy for us to deal with, especially when we want to start binding a lot of stuff from our hands. So I feel like this guy definitely helps us out with that. And again, you can put these back into the deck later on too. Just overall, really solid. Again, gets us to the late game, puts that pressure on. We already have 2 crit with our Vanguard, so not as heavily reliant kind of on that. If they just let it hit, could be a big gamble for them. So I really like the split. I'm keeping in this. I think this is definitely solid in my mind. You can go full crit, you know, if you want to put those all back, but the fact that we are putting things back really makes me kind of lean to to split it up and do my typical Narukami kind of split. But yeah, let's get into a test hand now. I'll show you guys how the deck plays out and how consistent it really is. All right, let's give this a good shuffle over here and get started. Like I said, I am a huge fan of this deck. I think that it is actually really good. It's one of my favorite decks right now in the meta. I think it has a lot of good matchups. It's definitely tough to play around. The inherent pressure is just so much in this deck, and I feel like everything kind of supports its win con, and it's just like, I don't know that I call it a win con, but just supports its strategy overall. So low and slow is the name of the game. Just apply constant pressure very naturally, and just, you know, you will pull out the game. Like, I feel like, I don't know that I've lost with this deck yet. I really don't think I have, and I've played quite a number of games on it, to be honest. I've played many games. I'm also trying these new oversleeves. They're kind of interesting. I think they're the KSC or something like that. They're the little border ones. They're a little slippery in my opinion, so let's see if I can keep my deck in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over here. Just drawing that out. Let's see what we do get in our hand. All right, so we got a lot of triggers. We did get a Dungaree. I'm going to put 3 back just because we are searching for that grade 2. Let's see what we can get. 1, 2. All right, we do get the grade 2 and 3. All right, cool. So we actually got 2 of those grade 1s. So we can get something decent going even on our grade 2 turn, because that skill still works on the Vanguard circle for that go ban. So really not too bad. Get to filter out, draw 2 cards. It'll be nice. All right, let's stand and draw for our turn. We're going to pretend we go first like we do in all of our test hand videos. Boom. Oh, I got 3 of them. So, okay. Ride 1, draw. All right, we are going to pass it over to our opponent, take a damage for their turn. Boom. All right, grade 2 support card over there. We are going to stand and draw now for our turn. We are then, actually have a choice. You know what, we're going to go into him just because his re-ride thing is so good. So we are going to, I'll leave a counterblast open, right? Yeah, but I'm going to take a damage next turn, so that's fine. Let's go. I don't think it really matters. 1, 2, because we're not countercharging, so the order that we put those down doesn't really matter too much because this guy when placed if you have it, so always do that guy first. But let's swing, you know, this is going to be 23 even if they hit a trigger, so yeah, let's swing in here first. 9k, boom, trigger. Let's say they just let it hit, crit power over here. This is now going to be a 33k column, and then at the end of the battle, counterblast 1, bind these 2 off. Again, doing exactly what we want. 2 of these guys in the bind zone, draw 2 cards. 1 and 2. Nice. We got some decent shield value now in our hands. Definitely think we're going to survive. We're going to pass it over to them. Boom, take a damage. Oh no, SP Dungaree. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? Let us think. Are they going to hit us again? You know, let's just, for argument's sake, say they do. Again, okay, cool. Stand and draw now for our turn. We are going to ride, obviously, into Mr. Dungaree. Let's get an Excel marker here. Hopefully this is bright enough. I'm going to get my Narukami themed little Excel marker that I filled in. I'm going to draw off of that. So here we are. Now let's see. I can go for that same play, which is actually pretty good. Let's go off of the grade 2 skill first, though. Let's go here. Counterblast 1, 2 cards on the top of my deck. I'm going to bind 1 and then put 1 into my hand. I'm going to bind this guy. I'm going to put this into my hand. Let's do that. We are also going to, let's call him down and call him down. We are then going to countercharge 1, so his skill will be live. That is fine and dandy. Let's see, because can we get more here? Yeah, we can with just him. So this is an example where I have actually a lot of shield in my hand, but I don't kind of want to overextend too much and place down units, or I don't really have to, but let's just get him going over here. Let's move onwards. Let us then go swing here, 23k. Skill, counterblast 1. I'm going to bind this whole column, so I'm going to get 5, but I don't really need 5 necessarily, but that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to choose up to 3 cards, so I don't really need to do that. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to draw those 2 cards, 1 and 2. All right, wish I had those for this turn, but it's okay. I am next going to go swing over here, dump all 5 from my bind zone. We have to do it. Our opponent's not a grade 3 either, so I didn't bind the top card of my deck, but we put those guys in the drop. I'm not going to put any of the normal units back. We are then going to triple drive. 1, power draw. Yeah, let's assume they PG'd or something. Second check, third check. Boom. And as we can see, I got 4 PGs in my hand right now, and I don't know what it is. I feel like I always get PGs in this deck. This deck has no problem kind of lasting, and really that's just like the idea of it. I wish I can kind of just go and grind. Maybe I'll post some gameplay footage of this deck just to show you guys how long this deck can really go. That's just the idea of it. Low and slow, keep that consistent. Your hand will be full. Like this deck is just actually really good. Like everything in my hand is going to satisfy the condition for next turn. Super satisfied overall with the support that we receive for this and the support that the clan kind of just has in general. And again, if you can't get the the promo cards. It's not a big deal. Like, you can get the, I think it's like Nazim or something like that, and the other promo card they just reprinted in this past set. So everything still is pretty affordable. This is actually a really cheap deck. I think you could probably get this deck for like under 40 bucks, like right around there. And for it to be as good as it is, I think this deck is, like, honestly, I'll say it, it's probably slept on. People haven't tested against it yet. They don't realize how good it really is, and it just has a lot of pressure, has a lot of consistency overall, and just all the pieces support its win con. So you saw how easy and effortlessly I just got to those what was it, those 5 in my bind zone. So very, very easy overall. Thank you guys again for watching, and if you are enjoying this, make sure to leave that like button, possibly subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. I'm trying to hit that 1K mark, and if you have any questions, let me know down below. This is Alex from Team Generations signing out.